Today, I am joined by someone that the young men might be able to recognize, a former adult actor, but now a follower of Christ, a husband, a father, a pastor, and also 32.7K followers, probably more by now, followers on TikTok. Mr. Joshua Broome, how are you doing, sir?
I'm great. I'm honored to be here.
Thank you.
I'm excited that we finally got this. Life
Sure.
is busy, so but I appreciate your flexibility.
Oh, it's no problem. Appreciate you, all your resilience. I've been wanting to get this happening, and I'm glad that it's happening right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too.
And to go ahead and get this started, with the bathtub scene, what are your thoughts on that overall being just a meme now for people?
Yeah. So it's pretty neat because just to give you a little bit backstory before I say what I say. So for the past year up until a few months ago, I worked for Life Church. So I was a pastor at Life Church. So if you're not familiar with Life Church, maybe you're familiar with Craig Rochelle. So Craig Rochelle leads Life Church, and they have 37 different locations across the United States. But they also own YouVersion. So the YouVersion Bible app. So that was the company that I worked for, the church that I worked for. And that was kind of like the leadership dynamic. So obviously, if we work side by side with the YouVersion Bible app, which has close to 1 billion downloads worldwide, technology is important. So anytime that you have the opportunity to leverage momentum, and I think that God is leveraging technology to make himself known in this name and age. And honestly, I didn't really think much about TikTok. I knew it existed. I checked it out and I was like, whoa, maybe this is not for me. I'm a married man. I don't want to, see people, I don't want to see young girls dancing. God says, if something tempts you, if your right hand tempts you, cut it off. So I was like, I don't want to go there. But just having people in my life that were tech savvy and different influencers in certain degrees, they were like, man, TikTok's a jam. You need to hop on there. I really think that you would do well in there. So I was visiting my wife and I, we were visiting her sister in Omaha, and just in the middle of the night, I was like, I'm gonna just post my testimony on there. And I sort of what do I want to post? And honestly, I didn't even realize that bathtub thing was a thing. I had no idea. I had no clue. I had no clue it was a meme. I had no clue it was a Vine. I had no clue. But I started I was like, okay, I need to how can I Google search myself the safest way possible? And what was really neat is because of all the safety guards I have on my phone, I couldn't find anything that was explicit, but I found that. And I was like, this is weird. And I started looking into it. I was like, holy moly, this has been shared, hundreds of thousands of times. So I just kind of pieced some stuff together and I shared it. And then within 12 days, it had 4 million views. Oh, wow. And I was like, man, this is bananas. But so to say, how do I feel about it? I think that, something that's important to me, or something that I live my life by, is I will do anything short of sin to reach people who don't know Jesus, and to reach people that no one is reaching, that you have to do things that no one is doing. So what no one is doing is leveraging a pornographic movie that turned into a Vine, that turned into a meme, that turned into a TikTok that became really popular. So I stepped into that realm where it was a little bit risky. And I think that I'm having conversations with people that I would have never met, and I'm influencing people that I would never met. And I think that when you guard your heart, but you step into a dark place, cool things are going to happen. So I think that it is what it is. And that's just I think if you lead with integrity and lead with honesty, you can have those conversations and have them with people that normally wouldn't interact with you. Because I'm just hey, I'm this dude that loves Jesus. You may or may not listen to what I have to say. I'm hey, I was in the porn industry for 5 years. okay, what's this guy about? So I think it's really neat that I get the opportunity to use something that is so bizarre to present Jesus.
Hmm. Yeah, because it's really a fantastic story, and like, just thinking about it, I've known like about how it's just been a meme for like so many years now, and
Right.
with TikTok, it's sort of the whole app is sort of like a stock. It's growing and growing more. So it's
Right.
great that you got in while you can, and you're obviously being very successful right now.
Yeah, it was like I was doing a little bit of research on it because I was like, you know, um, just reaching out to different influencers and reaching out to different people who kind of manage accounts and like
Hmm.
track like analytics and stuff like that. Like data is important, and just seeing that by like resharing like old videos or like just certain things you say, like will it'll end up on the the For You page, and
Yeah.
that's what you want, because like that way it gets visibility other than the people that you currently follow or the people that follow them, that they share the video. But I was doing a little bit of research, and I was like, how did this happen? Like how did like a really like bad like
Yeah.
bad movie, like not even that it was a pornographic film, it was like it was not a good script.
Yeah.
Like I actually did some legitimate acting, and I went to school for theater like prior to
Oh.
like moving to Los Angeles to model and whatnot. But I was like, this script is really bad. But it was just one of those things where the director trusted me as an actor, so he would say, here is the general concept, here's this is the dialogue, but you make it funny, say whatever you want. So this, like, all of that is just improv. But it was like, this is not a good movie. This is not good cinematography whatsoever, even for like an adult film. And it ended up being a Vine, which like blew up. And then I guess like someone who has a lot of influence, like in the genre of social
Yeah.
media, made an animated version. And then the animated version like ended up on something, like I don't remember, I don't know what, but some kind of like animation, like cartoon, or like something that like has like a large following, and that got some momentum, and then a few other people shared it, and then all of a sudden it became a TikTok, which 2 years ago it already had, I think, close to 100,000 shares.
Wow. Mm.
So it's just like, it's just bizarre.
Mhm.
It's bizarre. And the craziest thing about that is I had no idea. Like, but it was just weird because like no one has ever said anything like that to me about it. Like, I've been on Facebook for a hot minute, and I've been on Twitter and Instagram for a hot minute, and like no one has ever said anything about that to me. It's like, obviously, like, Lisa is the person that was in the video, like that's the person that like is known like in the video.
Mhm.
But I mean, like, not to say that I like not defend what I did by any means, but like, I was the top guy in the industry at that time, so it's like, it's not that I was just this like bum that was like doing it, but just the fact that like no one in the 9-year span from the time that, or 10-year span from the time that video was made until a few months ago, I had no clue that existed other than in that movie. But
Mm.
here we are.
Yeah, I think that really is crazy. And you mentioned being in LA to do modeling. Is that sort of how it just like blended into actually getting into the industry?
Yeah, so ultimately what happened was I dropped out of college. I was like going into my junior year, and I went to college. I really just went to college to play basketball, and I went to college. I was playing basketball for a hot minute. I joined a fraternity. I was there to have a good time, but I was studying theater, and but like really like I was really like struggling. I was having an identity crisis. So I was like, really, I was there to like anything that would like allow me to toot my own horn. And I had a lot of success in modeling, but like my passion was acting. And I didn't have as much success in acting, but I was having a lot of success in modeling. And for some reason, one day, just out of the blue, it's just kind of my personality is like, hey, I think I want to model full time. So I dropped out of school and I sold my, like, to have enough money to where I would have like some sustainability. Like while I was out there, I had a Jeep Cherokee and I'd paid for. So I sold that, dropped out of college and moved there. And I was in for a rude awakening when I got there, because I like, for the most part, like any like modeling stuff I've ever done, like especially when I was living in South Carolina, I didn't audition for anything. I was just like, I was the guy, you know, like, hey, such and such wants you to do this. Like, so when I got out there, they were like, do you have like, do you have your book ready, available? Like, you know, you need to go to this casting, this audition. I was like, what? Don't you know who I think I am? But it was just a rude awakening, because like everybody was out there to grind, everyone was out there to do the same thing. So all of a sudden, like when you're a small fish in a big pond and you're on a level playing field, things got real. But like I was still doing okay. I had the opportunity to be in a few movies. I traveled a lot. I shot a really cool movie in Romania and in Bucharest, and I got to see like some of the I didn't get to go to Transylvania because I didn't have time, but like I saw like I'm like a big like history and travel, like I love that stuff. So just like getting to explore that was cool. And then for modeling, like I never had a contract with a company, but I did really well. I had a few agents, but again, like I was partying and living far beyond my means. So I ended up getting a job at a bar. And while I was working in that bar, that's where I met a group of girls. And they were like, hey, did you ever think about being an actor? And I was like, well, actually, I am an actor. And they were talking about adult films. And I was like, I've not thought about that. And then they were like, well, I would love to introduce you to my agent. And I was like, sure, I'll meet with the guy, see what he has to say. And I thought like I didn't like, I grew up in a small town, South Carolina. Like Hollywood was already like just this bizarre like thing to me. So just like, I was thinking porn agent. I thought I was going to like show up at like someone's house or something. Like, it would be like super weird. But I roll up to this like gigantic like megaplex, and it's like the biggest like porn agency in the world. And this guy that's there, he only represents 10 guys, and like he represents a bunch of girls, but he'll only like represent 10 guys. He's like, I only represent like top guys, I only represent the best, this and that. And he just like me, like the issue that I had at the time, like even though I was doing well, there were people in my circle that were doing a lot better than I was. And I made the mistake that many people make, that my idea of success was based on someone else's. And I couldn't even see that, like looking back on it, I was doing pretty well, but I wasn't doing as well as someone else. So when someone said, you can be the best, you can be famous, you can be the guy, you can like do all this stuff, it was all the things that my insecurities and my pride and my greed wanted to hear. So I was like, sure, I'll try it out. I'll do one, with really not like a lot of thought behind it. And, the way it works is like every 14 days, you have to get a full panel STD test. So like, testing for everything, and then draw a blood sample and do like HIV and all that stuff. That's supposed to come back within 24 hours. Mine didn't come back. So it was like, that was another opportunity. It was like, like God was like, hey, don't do that. There's a lot of times in my life I can look back and say, or see like someone in my life trying to steer me into a better direction, or like something about to happen where I did something really stupid that I had an opportunity to take another, the fork in the road. But I just waited until the next day, and then they called back. They're like, everything came back. You're good. We postponed the shoot. We just really want you to do it. So I did it. And it was weird. It was like I did it, And I don't know what I was thinking. Like, I did it, and I was dating a girl at the time. And I was dating a girl that was working at the like bar I was working at. So like, I was like, hey, I did this thing. So like, of course she broke up with me, and I felt like an idiot. I felt embarrassed. And then, so I was like, I guess I'm just going to keep doing this and hope like that can make money, because I have to quit this bar because I look like an idiot. Mm-hmm. And so I called him back, and I was like, hey, I think, you know, I want to keep doing this stuff. He's like, great, because I already got you a shoot booked for, you know, tomorrow. And it was like, it was literally like I did one, and then I woke up and it had been like almost 5 years. Wow. It was just so bizarre. Yeah. But that's how it started.
Yeah. Other than, you know, the identity issues and getting caught up in it, you know, said it was 5 years passed by before, you know, what were some of the other pitfalls that you experienced in your time?
Yeah. I think like, so again, you know, I'm a pastor, and I see everything through the lens of Scripture and God. So I look back at Genesis, and I see Adam and Eve. God set boundaries. They chose to step outside of them, so they sinned. And then when they sinned, what happened? They felt ashamed. They felt guilt, and they covered up and they hid. And that is my story. So I sinned, and I felt ashamed, and I hid, and I sinned more, and I continued to do that process. So I pushed my mom away. I pushed all my friends away, but not because they stopped reaching out to me, because I continually viewed myself as someone who was being used. So I felt useless. I felt dirty, so I assumed that people would perceive me as dirty. I thought, like, you know, I assumed that my mom was embarrassed of me, and really she was just hurt for me. And like, I missed so many moments in my mom's life that she really needed me for. So like so just to give you a quick backstory, my mom had me when she was 16. Busted her butt, made sure I always had J's on my feet. I went to basketball camp. I never had anything. I never didn't have anything, but at the same time, we were living in government housing, and sometimes we had food stamps, but somehow she always made sure I had what I needed. And to see that someone would work that hard to make sure I had what I needed or wanted to like fit in or feel like, you know, a normal kid, because I already felt rejected not having a dad. To see how hard she worked, and see like me let her down and not be there for her when she goes through her life, marries a guy who abuses her and is just terrible to her. They get divorced, and then finally she meets a guy that treats her like she's deserving of, and then he dies, and she's going through that process and grieving, and I'm not there. I'm not there because I think that she doesn't want me there because of how I see myself. Like, that's how broken I was. I love my mom more than anything in this world. And I put myself in a point where I couldn't even fathom her wanting me to be in her presence because of how I felt about myself. So like, and that was the case where like my fraternity brothers, all of my friends, my brother, basically everyone, I pushed everyone away. And most people like get caught up in drugs and get caught up in like this and that, like while I was in the industry. And like, yeah, like I partied my butt off in the first like year or two, but years 3 and 4, like when I was at, you know, my most famous, like I was standing on stage, like winning, you know, performer of the year and like director of the year and like all this stuff. Like I was going to set and coming home and sitting there by myself and not wanting anything to do with anyone else. And like, yeah, like the media I would go to events like with girls or do these things that like would allow the media to perceive that I was living this life. But the reality is I was at home watching TV because I didn't want to be around anybody, because that's how I felt about myself.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful. You know, it shows you never know what a person's going through, and especially with a lifestyle like that, you see many people or like athletes or anything, and then God ends up filling the hole.
Yeah.
And with Mia Khalifa, she spoke out about a bunch of the negative experiences in the industry, and she caught a lot of
Yeah.
flack for it. What are your thoughts on sort of, I guess people thought like, oh, she had everything, she couldn't have had anything wrong. What do you think about it not being the case for her?
So honestly, like I've tried reaching out to her. I don't really know her story.
Mm-hmm.
So if you could give me like, so all I know is that she, she said that she only made X amount of dollars in her time in that industry, and she got ridiculed for it. So I don't know. So what was, what's her story?
I believe that's just a general story. She got into, and it's not what she thought it would be, and tried to get out, but wasn't as easy as she thought it was, and
Right.
shows the entrapment, I guess would be the word for it.
Yeah. So I think so. A lot of times, like more often than not, a situation there is reality and how you perceive it, right? So like, why did I not get out of the industry, at year 3 when I was feeling like that? It was because of my perception of reality, because I believed that I was incapable of doing anything else. And I thought that I was not, like, no one would ever want to be in a relationship with me. I would never be able to like have a career. So I saw myself as this product that only had one use. So what else could I possibly do? So I believed that the only thing I could do was continue doing that. And so the reality is, like, for most people, like for girls, unless you've been in the industry for a hot minute, um, and you are like the it girl, like you're not making bank. Like, yeah, like girls, the thing with girls is they make an exponential amount of money. Well, they make a lot more money than guys. But the thing is, so as a guy, like I had the career that I had because no one cares about the guy. So the reason that I was so successful is there's like 10 to 15 guys that every director uses pretty much every movie, because what matters most to a director is that you can get the job done. Because as a director, you're renting, a location, you're paying for permits, you're paying the girl no matter what. You have, maybe you've rented a camera, maybe, you're paying a PA, you're paying sound, you're paying, all these things, and everything is riding on you doing your job. Because if you don't do what you're there to do, there's no content, right? So like nothing matters. You still have to pay everyone, but I don't have a finished product if you don't do what you need to do. So with that said, like I would work 25 to 30 times a month, where a girl is going to work 3 to 5 times a month usually. So even if she's making, $1,000 or $1,200 or $1,500 a shoot, you're only shooting like 3 to 5 times. So like, yeah, like $3,500 is bank, but it's like is it, if you're living in Hollywood and you're living this lifestyle and you're trying to keep up with everyone else? So like for a guy, like I was making like, $700, $800 a day, but I was working like 30 times a month, So that was the difference. And for me, like directors took care of me. For me, it was a personal thing. Like I never got manipulated. It was all pretty much myself. Like when I went to get out of the industry, I was in a contract, and that was a whole other deal. But I signed a legal contract binding me to doing, stipulated things that I bounced on. So I had to pay a lot of money to get out of the business. But like for girls, like the truth is, like, yeah, like there is a lot of money to be made for a very select few. But for the most part, like is $1,000, is $3,000, is $9,000 in a 3-month period worth the effect it's going to have on your life? Absolutely not. Especially if that money is going to go away after that time, and then there's no like next step after it. So I mean, that's kind of my 2 cents on that. But like, it's like, obviously like girls get treated different than guys, you know, because like a director is depending on me to deliver, so he's gonna kind of have my back. But like for girls, like I'm sure it's more like manipulation, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's by no means like a healthy place. Like it's not a healthy like headspace to be in. But yeah.
Yeah, because I know a lot of people like find any chance they get to get out of it, maybe ending up starting a family, anything. I know that you probably reached a breaking point, like probably mentally. What was the point that you realized that you needed to get out? I know you mentioned that like you wanted to, but then you legally couldn't, but then you had to probably buy yourself out of a contract.
Yeah. So, I mean, like the last year I was in the industry, it was just like every day, it was just like, I dreaded it. And then I would come home and it was just terrible. But I got to a point where, like I knew who God was. I believed that he existed. I believed that he created me. I believed that Jesus was real. But what I didn't know or didn't give myself access to was that he wanted to be in a relationship with me. But I say that to say, even this person that didn't really know God intimately was calling out to God saying, hey, I don't have the guts to kill myself, but I don't really see a future and I despise my life. I just want to die. And I felt like that for weeks. And then I had like a really, really dark day. And like I was saying, I had isolated myself to a point where I was not interacting with anyone that truly knew me. I went, everyone for the most part goes by a stage name. My stage name did not resemble my actual name whatsoever. And people would just call me my stage name. So I was at a bank, I was cashing a check or depositing a check. And then we had made the interaction was over. Like I gave them the check, give your card, swipe the card, put in the code. Thank you. Do you want it in this account? Yes. Yada, 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 yada. Here's your receipt. I'm walking away and she stops and says, hey, Joshua, is there anything I can do to help you? Is there anything you need? And that was the first time I had heard my name in almost 18 months.
Wow.
And it absolutely crushed me because I heard many things, but I thought about my mom and I thought about, I just felt this, I felt this conviction that I hadn't felt in a long time. I'd become very numb and I was doing things that I would not do because I didn't care. And just all of a sudden, like everything became real and I had these real feelings that I had to deal with. And I went home and I literally had almost like an arbitrary breakdown moment where I'm looking in the mirror, crying my eyes out and literally saying, who in the heck is this person that I'm looking at in the mirror? Like, who am I? What have I done? And I was like, I could not even fathom. There was nothing in this world that was going to make me walk on set ever again. So I pretty much after I gathered myself together, I called and I was like, hey, I'm not going to be on set tomorrow. They were like, oh, are you not feeling well? Like this and that. And I'm like, no, I quit. And they were like, hold up, you can't do that. And there was, a big argument because I had signed a contract with a production company and I had a contract with an agent and all these things and stuff I had agreed to do, like appearances and all this stuff. It was just like a disaster, but I was just like, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing one thing. Don't ask me. The answer is no. Contact my, my legal team. Let me know what I need to pay. I'm going to cut the check. I'm done. I don't care what it costs. And, it ended up being pretty much everything I had. But and then, you know, I had like a pretty nice place I was staying in, and I just called like everyone I knew, and I was like, do you want to take over my space? They're like, you don't have to pay me anything, and you can have all my stuff. Just make sure the rent's paid, because I was in like, it was a leased place. So I was like, you know, just stay here the rest of the year. Just make sure you pay rent. But you can have all of my furniture. You can have everything. You can have all my everything. I'm just going to take my clothes and I'm leaving. They're like, are you insane? Did you kill someone? Like, I was like, I just got to get out of here. And with less than a week from that phone call, my mom was picking me up at the airport.
And then seems like you sort of restarted. How did you end up starting your relationship with Jesus? I know you mentioned that, you know, you knew who he was and everything, you recognized, but didn't actually take action per se.
Yeah. So that's a great question. And that question is really the reason that I'm writing a book. So the now what, right? Because for me, I had that moment of conviction and I felt guilty, and I was like, hey, I'm going to remove myself from the thing I'm doing, but I didn't do anything about it. And my plan was to just sweep it under the rug. And I had a background in fitness. So I was like, I'm going to start personal training and coaching. And I got a job at a CrossFit. And then, so like, I went to realize that I went from making like $275,000 a year to making $20 an hour. It was like a pretty big, it was a pretty drastic change. And then I was like, okay, I need to get another job. I was like, I still have my mom's grind in me. So I was like, I just got to I'll get two jobs. So I was working at Whole Foods from 4 a.m. until 1. And then I was working at this gym from 3 until, you know, close. And I did that for a while. And like everybody I met, I lied to. I was like, I lived in California. You know, I was just trying to model. I was just doing whatever. Like, don't look me up. I was like, I didn't really do anything. Like, don't worry about it. Like, you know, I didn't amount to anything. I was just out there. I ended up working in a bar, blah, blah, blah. Just like, just lying to everyone and just like, please, please, please don't Google me. You know, don't worry about it. And that went on for like almost 2 years. So I worked there for a while. Got some momentum. Like I just fell in love with training people. And I just like, you know, it's funny how like I was sharpening all these tools I had, because like while I was in the film industry, I did have the opportunity to like learn like camera and lights and editing, and like, you know, became like, I fell in love with like Final Cut and like all these things. And like had the opportunity to direct some movies and stuff. So like really like fell in love again with, you know, I loved theater. And then it was like, film and acting and all this stuff. So like I picked like all these like tools up, and then I got to use them as far as like communicating with people and like understanding people and having empathy for people and just interacting with people. And I was like, I just love the idea of someone like wanting to be better and just being a small catalyst for them to move into the direction that they want to go. You know, if I can have an impact on someone and then be a little bit better than they were yesterday, then I felt awesome about myself. I'm like, I really love this. And it kept going well. And then I got an offer to work at a bigger gym. And like our lead trainer just left. We need another guy. I hear nothing but great things about you. Do you want the job? And I was like, yes. And I took the job, and it allowed me to quit cleaning out a cold cooler and stacking, you know, pallets at 4 a.m. And I was like, I'm all about it. So I was like, this is going well. It's like, I'm making okay money. I'm doing something I love. I feel so much better about myself. But at the end of the night, I had to lay my head down, and inside of me, I had all these demons. I had all these nightmares. I had all these memories, and they haunted me. I had nightmares, and I was always so afraid. There were many times that I would like hang out with someone, and then someone would find out, like, aren't you that guy? I'm like, ah. So I'd have to like leave that relationship, or even worse, even worse, they would just, they would leave. A relationship would end because I would, be dishonest, and they would find out who it was. And then I met this girl, and I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna tell her. Like, I'm just gonna, I'm just so tired of this happening. I'm so tired of being rejected. And this is like this is even worse than before. So I told her everything, and I was like, I know that you probably don't want anything to do with me, but I just thought enough of you just to tell you that, and just save myself and yourself, the hassle. And her response was the gospel. And she asked me if I knew God, and I was like, I know who he is. Well, she said, are you in a relationship with him? And I was like, well, what do you mean? And the next week was Easter, and we went to church together, and I heard the gospel, and I heard that Jesus, died a perfect death. And sorry, my wife is texting. That, that Jesus had lived and died and rose again, and he did that for me, and that forgiveness was available to me if I believe in my heart and confess my mouth that Jesus is Lord. And I was like, I don't know. It was just a culmination of like feeling so guilty and feeling ashamed and feeling loved by her, and really like experiencing the character of Jesus through her. And then when I walked into the presence of the gospel again and heard it articulated very clearly, it made perfect sense for me to just fall to my knees and just surrender so much guilt and so much shame. And that changed my life. And like I was saying, so anything I do, I'm all in. So like that happens. And then like the next week, I like called the church, and it was a big church. And I called the church, and I was like, hey, can I talk to a pastor? And they're like, sure. And I was like, hey, this is my story. I feel like I should tell somebody this. He's like, wow. And that was kind of, it was really beautiful, because like anytime you step out in faith, like God's going to bless it. So I did that. And then they were launching a fifth campus at that church, and they had just hired a guy that was from Texas. He had moved his whole family from Texas to be a pastor at this new location that wasn't yet open, but they wanted to get him, acclimated to the culture. And they were like, hey, there's this guy, Andrew. He's in town. He's not really doing anything. Why don't you, why don't you spend some time with him? And that guy now is my mentor. He's my best friend. And he taught me how to read the Bible. He's a teacher. He's a great, great teacher of the Bible. So he taught me how to read the Bible, and then he taught me how to teach the Bible. And then he encouraged me to, he's like, you really have a gift. I think you should, go to either seminary or Bible college. And I did, and I loved it. And that, like anything I've ever done, I'm all in. Like if I'm about it, I'm that guy. I'm crazy. I'm that stupid kid that's hands up first every time. And I was just like, it's just like anything I've ever experienced in my life that's good, my instinct is to turn to the person on both sides of me. It's like, you got to get some of this. And that's who I am. And that's how I want to spend my life. I want to spend my life saying, I've tasted and seen, and I would love to present it to you in a way that it looks appetizing, and you just take a look at how good he is. And yeah.
What's poppin'? I just wanted to pop in and talk to you about the official social media accounts for Munch with Honeybunch. On both Instagram and Twitter, we'll be doing giveaways, interacting with listeners, posting shoutouts, anything else that sounds cool. So, go on over to @MunchHoneyBunch on both Instagram and Twitter. See you there.
We are back and better than ever here for a second part after Mr. Broome had to do some great daddy duty, fantastic father that he is. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. It's been a crazy day. I'm doing really good. I'm doing really good.
That's great. I think we might as well just hop back in. We left out. We were still discussing how you got into your relationship with Jesus. Is it if LinkedIn isn't lying to me, is it true that you attend Liberty for Christian Studies?
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct.
And I was wondering, what would that degree be able to help you out with?
Yeah, so for me, so if you have a degree, so it'll be a degree in religion with a focus on Christian ministry. So like ultimately, like what capability that would have you do, you would be able to teach like Christian studies. You would be able to be ordained as a pastor. If you were like looking to pastor at a church where they didn't offer, because a lot of churches they ordain underneath the umbrella of like the SBC or like Southern Baptist Convention or whatever church they were part of. For me, I am passionate about teaching the Bible, and for me to have a thorough foundation of theological principles and be able to study the Bible and to be able to teach the Bible is important to me. So for me, it's just equipping me to do what I do well. And so after I finish that, I'll pursue a master's in divinity. And just for me, it's like, because I've planted my own church and I've started my own ministry, for me, like it would open the door theoretically if I were to pursue like being an executive pastor at another church or something like that. But for me, I just want to be firm in what I'm standing on and be able to teach it incredibly well.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. I'm glad you're doing it. I was wondering, with specifically on TikTok or just in general, when you preach the gospel, giving your testimony, and then someone says something like against it or like something they don't disagree with you, what do you normally do in that process?
Yeah, I mean that's apologetics 101. Just be ready to give an answer for the faith that you have. That's 2 Timothy 2:16, I believe. But that's part of, if you're going to proclaim anything, you should be able to explain what it is that you're standing on. So again, like that's another aspect of why I want that. And just for me, I have a really big vision and a really big dream for. I just believe that God is going to do something miraculous through my life, and I was never the top guy, but I was one of the top guys, and I made over $1 million in wealth, and I've traveled the world, and I've done all these things like in adult films, and I just believe that God is going to do something even bigger than that. So I say that to say, I think it's important for me to have an educational background just to provide credibility for what I'm saying, because I'm not even just looking past what I'm going to do. I'm looking at I can only do so much, but if I can bring some people alongside of me and disciple them well, and I want to identify leaders that can do more than I ever could by myself. And I just think, like, me being an organization, the name of my church is Known Church, and just like me leaving a legacy, and I think that legacy will be better suited if I have a theological education just to provide some credibility.
It's still great seeing your mindset right now. How have you, I know it's a big difference now. How would you sort of describe the difference between, your mindset, personality, all et cetera, now compared to how it was all the years before?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's not any different. I mean, anything I've ever done. So there's two things that my mom ingrained in me so deep that I could never shake them. Love everyone relentlessly and work hard. So a work ethic and my care for people are two things that are incredibly important to me because they were important to my mom. So anything I've ever done, the only way I know how to do anything is with every ounce of my energy, with all of my heart. So that's why, like, not to toot my own horn, but like, I've never failed at anything. You know, it's like, because I was either smart enough to get out because I knew I couldn't do it, or whatever I was doing, I just wanted to be the absolute best. And it's something that I believe it's not what, you know, it's not just giving your best, it's what you do after that. You know, it's like, so work ethic is important to me. Leaving things better than when you found them is important to me. That's just who I am, and that's a tribute to my mom.
That's great. I wanted to transition over to another thing that you post about a lot on all your socials, fitness, you know, based off what I've seen, like all the Instagram stuff, and I describe you as like the biggest man, you know, just so strong and everything. Has fitness always been a big part of your life?
Yeah. So fitness has, like, I started working out when I was like 12, 13 years old. I loved basketball. So for me, it's like, I was running around wearing these, like, there was these like calf shoes that you would wear that like you exercise your calves, and I just like walked around like doing calf raises because like once I dunked for the first time my 10th grade year, and the first time I rattled one in, I was like, oh, you know, I want to be able to, you know, do a reverse, or I want to be able to, you know, dunk off of 2 feet, like, you know, just do a drop step. And it's like, it was all about basketball. So like for me, the proxy of me spending a lot of time in the gym was, you know, if I can apply more force, I can create more power. So that was just transitioning to the gym, but I love the ritual of it. I'm a big schedule person. And I love doing the same thing at the same time. Like I feed off of that. So like practice or lifting weights or training, that whole aspect was just something that brought me peace. It set my mind at ease. I'm a very like wired, like highly energetic person. So it's like something that, like, if I can have and you know, just an output early in the morning, it just kind of sets me off to be successful throughout the day. But it just became a large part of my life. I wanted to play basketball. I played basketball in college for a hot minute until I dropped out. And then after being in the industry for a while, I knew that, like, this is not what I want to do with my life. What else could I do? And I didn't really see a lot of opportunities for that. But what's the thing that I've always done is work out consistently. And I went to a CrossFit gym for the first time and just loved it because it felt like practice. For me, it was like, okay, everybody was rooting for everybody. Everybody was doing the same thing. And regardless of like whatever weight I had on the bar, like everybody was rooting for each other. And I was like, this is like community. This is like practice, because I love data, you know? So they were like, you're working off of percentages. You were like tracking time. It was like different modalities. It's like scores on the board. You know, how much could you lift? How fast could you do it? So like that excited me. And I was like, I asked the owner, like, my second day, this is who I am, you know, like my second day there, I was like, how do you go about coaching? They're like, well, you know, it's like, generally you do it for a while and then you go and like get the certification, like someone like vows for you. It's like, yeah, they've been doing it for, you know, X amount of time. And I was like, well, can I just go? She's like, you're crazy. So sure. Just, you know, just go try it out. And I went and got the certification. And like from the time that I started doing CrossFit, within like 6 weeks, I was coaching it. And the problem with that at that time was, even though I was coaching CrossFit, everyone was still calling me. I was still known as that person. But what I didn't see is God had planted a seed in who I was and how I love people and all of that aspect. So that was actually my way out, because when I left, I didn't know what else to do but that. So I just like, hey, I literally contacted like 50 gyms. And I was like, and ultimately, like, who will give me the most hours? Because like CrossFit was relatively new. And for the most part, no one coached CrossFit full time. That just like wasn't realistic. You know, like maybe you could work like 15, 20 hours in a CrossFit gym a week, but there's no way you're going to make a living doing it. But I found a gym that would like let me work enough and like clean the gym and like do some random stuff in Raleigh, North Carolina. So they were like, sure, like you have this experience in California, you must be legit. You must know what you're going on. So I just based on where I was in where the CrossFit like logistically was, that gave me the credibility to get a job. Like kind of knowing what I was doing, you know, but I sold it well. But I had that opportunity to do that. And then just like once I got there and like that started to become like, hey, you know, no one's calling me this name anymore. I'm helping people. I'm in community. I'm attributing to people's lives. People are coming to me and they trust me. And even though I was lying to a lot of people about my past, I was in some degree being myself for the first time in a long time. And then I had an opportunity to take a full-time position at another gym because someone noticed, you know, me coaching at this gym. They're like, hey, I have an opening. This person who was the head coach at my gym, they just opened their own gym and I have this vacancy. Would you like to interview for it? And I interviewed for it and I took it. And that was really hard for me because in the middle of that process, the person that I was working for had helped me a ton. Like I really, really like owe the person that owned that gym just the world. And it was hard for me to leave, but just like I saw it as like, okay, this is the next, like any career. It's like if I'm going to treat this as a career, you know, this is a better opportunity. Even though I love being here, you know, this makes sense. So I went to that gym, and after coaching there just for a few months, I met this girl that I went on a walk with, and that girl was my wife. So like that was kind of the catalyst for that. But I continued working there for a while. Another gym opened up in the area, and it was a very big gym and big enough where it needed a general manager. And I took that position. I worked there for about a year. My wife and I decided to open our own gym. We opened a gym, and then we opened another gym, and I owned that until I took a job at Life Church.
I think it's fantastic how, you know, fitness is all come around full circle, basically your whole life. And one of the things I was also wondering, you know, the overall part of fitness, you know, there's obviously the exercising, but there's also making sure you keep a healthy diet. And honestly, that's probably one of the big reasons why I don't have like rock hard abs. But I was wondering if you could eat anything without being affected physically, what would that be? What's your general cheat meal, I guess?
What's my cheat meal?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, well, for me, like I don't like candy, but pastries, like I love donuts and cake. I'm from the South, so it's like, so at my grandma's house, there like dessert wasn't available. It was part of the meal. Like it like pecan pie, chocolate cake, you know, whatever, that was just part of the meal. So like for me, after I eat dinner, like it's not a sweet tooth. That's how you finish your meal. So for me, like donut, cake, anything like that. But like what I love is just like good, greasy Southern cooking, like fried chicken, collard greens with fat back in it, and all that's my jam right there.
That's a fantastic transition over to Thanksgiving. It's coming out on the 23rd, the week of Thanksgiving. I was wondering where does it rank on your holidays? Where does Thanksgiving rank?
Man, so I'll try not to get emotional. I know it's kind of off the cuff, but Thanksgiving is probably my favorite holiday because it's always a time where like my family would come together and we'd eat food and we'd watch football and we'd laugh and eat, you know, way too much. But it was the one time a year that like all of my family got together, because at Christmas is kind of everybody would do their own thing, you know, because, you know, people got married and, you know, whatever. But like Thanksgiving was always, everybody was at my grandma's house, and about 3 months ago, my grandmother was battling through cancer, and as she was starting to do better, she got COVID, and she ended up giving COVID to my grandfather. So my grandmother died on a Wednesday, and my grandfather died on a Sunday, and that was 3 months ago. So like Thanksgiving will be, it'll be tough, but it'll be a celebration of their life for me. So Thanksgiving is my favorite. I love to cook. That's kind of like my mom worked a restaurant her whole life. Every good memory I have, not every good memory, but like a lot of memories I have is me harassing my grandma in the kitchen, trying to get a buttermilk biscuit just come out of the oven, her cornbread. But yeah, so like Thanksgiving is my favorite. I think it'll always be that way. Just because it reminds me of family and my grandparents. So it'll be a tough one this year, but I love it. My grandpa he was a big Washington fan, and they would generally play. But yeah, Thanksgiving's special to me.
I'm very sorry to hear that, but like you mentioned, that's one of the great things about Thanksgiving. Everybody can come together, and especially this year, everybody's been through so much. You guys can just have a great time, get some good memories.
Yeah.
I remember seeing something somewhere saying like it was, how would I describe it? It was sort of shaming like Christians for celebrating Halloween in a way, like
Right.
like the overall true meaning is definitely negative, but the enjoyment,
Right.
candy and everything still shouldn't be taken away. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, so for me, every interaction is an opportunity. So I think like I have spent a lot of time going through like leadership development, and John Maxwell is a great leader of leaders, and something that he says, and his favorite quote of mine is, "No one cares what you know until they know that you care." And just kind of filtering through, Colossians 4:6 says, "Let your speech be gracious and seasoned with salt, so that you might know how you ought to answer each question or each person." And for me, so if every interaction is an opportunity, what a great opportunity to go into your community and meet people. My kids went trick-or-treating, but like my little boy dressed up like a farmer, and my youngest was a little sheep, but we went around and we ate too much candy. Well, they did, and we met our neighbors. We just moved to a new place, and it's like what a great opportunity to meet people. So for me, it's like, what's your why? Your why will always drive your what. So like what my why is, I want to lead people towards Jesus. Like that's the why behind everything I do. So how do you do that? Well, Jesus said, love God, love people. So I can't love them if I don't know them. And that just kind of goes along like with a lot of things. Like there's a lot of organizations and podcasts, and there's places that like there's people that I have relationships with, and like organizations I have relationships with is like, oh, they do this or they do that. Like for example, like I have a partnership with Fight the New Drug, right? So Fight the New Drug is an anti-pornography organization, but they are non-religious. So it's like, well, they don't advocate for Jesus. Like what? So why do you advocate for them? It's like, well, I can be an advocate for something while you can't have, you don't have a voice if you don't have a seat at the table. Is my thing. So
I think
that's a long answer to your question.
No, you're all good. I love the answer. I think it was a great response. I wanted to go back to Thanksgiving a little bit. You mentioned football is also a big part of it. I feel like this Thanksgiving lineup, we got Houston versus Detroit, Washington, Dallas, Baltimore, Pittsburgh. I haven't been able to watch football that much this year personally. Yeah. I think it's a great chance for me to get back into, because I don't be doing much on it.
Yeah, I mean, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, that'll be a good game.
Ooh.
That'd be a real good game.
Yeah, because two out of three of them are divisional, if I'm not mistaken. So that's definitely big rivalries, and even more for football. You mentioned you were a Packers fan, and
big Packers fan, big Packers fan. Well, so the thing was, like, everybody's like, why aren't you? Because I grew up in the Carolinas, like, why aren't you a Carolina Panthers fan? It's like, well, there was 15, 20 years of my life where the Panthers didn't exist.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
So I am the biggest Kobe Bryant fan I will say this. I am the biggest Kobe Bryant fan that's ever existed. That's my crown. But I've always liked players, and I love statistics. But kind of like because of my grandpa, he liked he liked Washington, and he liked the Packers. But a lot of times, because there wasn't a Carolina team, if someone from like University of South Carolina would go pro, we become a big fan of the team. So like Sterling Sharp was like probably other than Donald Driver, Greg Jennings, and he's probably the best receiver that Green Bay's ever had. So big fan of him. So like that's kind of where that started. But then like Brett Favre was just like so fun to watch. And then Aaron Rodgers plays a lot, the same. So, like that's why, big Packers fan. But for basketball, like I was always a Lakers fan, but not really. I was always a Kobe fan, and I realized that when he retired, and I watched the Lakers the next season, I was just like,
So then,
it was. I mean, I think LeBron is incredible, but like I think because I like to keep it 100 with everybody. So I'm not gonna say like Jordan's the GOAT, hands down. I'm not gonna say Kobe is better than Jordan. It's close, but Jordan's the GOAT. And I feel like I'm not gonna hate on LeBron. Like LeBron, he's top 5 greatest player of all time, no doubt. But just like him, like I don't know. I was a Kobe fan. So like after that, just like I like players. I love LeBron, but like it doesn't make me like the Lakers. I love Steph Curry. I like I like dynamic players, and I like shooters. So
I mean, yeah, that makes sense a lot. The Packers are 7-2 so far this year. I think that's very great, because isn't that like the best they're doing in a while at least? I know they're always
because Aaron Rodgers has been hurt for a hot minute, and they always have injuries, and they finally have a running game, which is great because historically their running game has just been terrible. And they always have great defensive line and great linebackers, and they have a terrible secondary. But now they kind of got all the pieces of a good defense. Aaron Jones is a good running back. And when all the receivers are healthy, they're looking pretty good.
Yeah, because I think recently I've really started liking Aaron Rodgers a lot. My family, they're big Bears fans, so it's always sort of been there like, oh, we don't like the Packers. But now that I'm like just getting more of a chance to see him, like he's really good. I kind of like him a lot.
Yeah. Same here. So my wife, her mom's family, which is gigantic. They all live in Chicago, so they're all huge Bears fans. So I feel you on that.
Yeah. And then personally, I like the Cardinals the most, and it was can't remember. Now. Yeah, I want to talk about the DeAndre Hopkins. Oh my gosh, I'm mad I didn't get to see it live, but
I didn't either. But I watched the highlight like 5,000 times. I made it's one of those highlights that like I made my wife watch, but I was like, I'll show her stuff like that all the time. But I'm like, no, I need you to stop what you're doing and watch this.
It was fantastic, and even hearing like the about how he knew he was gonna catch it, like when he was mic'd up and everything.
Oh yeah, it was funny what Kyler Murray said. He's like, yeah, I knew Hop was down there somewhere.
I think the Cardinals are doing really great. I love Kyler Murray so much. Being a
Yeah.
shorter player, he's really developing. Back to the overall Thanksgiving. I was wondering if you're a big Black Friday shopper.
No, I mean, like online, like, man, one year my wife like and her mom like went out and like I don't know, they're going to get. I think I wanted because like I was in a circle where like everybody had like all these gadgets when they were preaching. So like they had their laptop and they had their little like iPad and they had these little this and little that. It's like I feel like I need that. So they were like they went out and got this. The iPads were on sale or something. But I remember just like her sending me pictures and stuff. I'm like, never again.
Yeah.
Not worth it.
I remember going last year for the first time.
I don't think it'll be happening this year.
Oh, you have a really good point. I haven't heard much about it in general. They're really pushing the online.
So COVID in Iowa it's almost quadrupled. It's the worst it's ever been by like 300%. They actually just shut down schools 2 days ago. Because my wife she teaches from home, but they shut down all schools. So they released another mandate saying, more than 50, you can't have more than 15 people in any business that can't social distance. You can't have more than 30 in a place that can. And obviously there's some caveats to that in regards to like different businesses, but like pretty much everything back on lockdown. Which me trying to launch a ministry, it would be really disheartening if my focus wasn't an online platform, So
yes, I like how you're taking advantage of the opportunity. Going away from the Thanksgiving topic, I want to talk about the I guess sort of a challenge now, the No Nut November challenge.
Yeah.
What are your overall thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, like I think again, like kind of like the Thanksgiving thing, like why? Like do you plan to get something out of it? Because what's great about it is there's this 21-day rule. If you do anything for 21 days, it becomes a habit. So if I can get habitual in me setting boundaries for myself, because like God is sneaky in a sense where he will leverage an opportunity anywhere you'll give it to him, in a sense where like, hey, I'm going to start honoring God. It's just for 30 days, no big deal. Or just like, I'm just going to crack the Bible open. I'm just curious what it says. And you give God an inch and he'll wreck your life in the best ways. So I think that while like it's silly to some degree, it's great in others, because if I can gain perspective from that 30 days and take something from it, then great. But if I have a mindset where I'm going to do this for 30 days and I'm just going to go back to what I was doing, then it's kind of pointless. And that's just kind of like, for me as a trainer, that's why the diet industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry, because a diet is built to fail. A diet is, don't do this or do this for X amount of time, and at the end of it, what have you learned? Nothing. And that's kind of like it's kind of like you being force-fed religion from someone else. Because if that's why, like, and I think it was I don't remember the date off the top of my head, but when Martin Luther wrote the 95 Theses, like what was going on was the Catholic Church was teaching, was preaching in Latin, and no one spoke Latin. They were like, just do this, and just pay these taxes, and just do this, and trust me, this is what it says. And then all of a sudden, Martin Luther's like, actually, you're preaching heresy. This stuff's not in there. This is not theologically correct. Here's what it says. Here, let me provide you with these things that they're telling you to do that's not true. So if you don't have an independent dependency on Jesus, you are not following Jesus. If you don't have a independent understanding of what health and fitness looks like, then I'm probably just going to go back to my default, which was eating whatever or not eating enough. If I don't learn something from it, then what's the point?
Yeah, I think that's a great take on it. I've never heard anybody think of it that way. I wanted to send it over to the last segment of our show, Bunch Time, with rapid fire questions. I was wondering your favorite Disney movie of all time.
Man. I have to go Aladdin.
Aladdin? Because I haven't really had much time to see Aladdin. Even was the reboot good? Have you seen that one yet?
I haven't. Honestly, it's the first thing that came to mind. I don't know. Man, my kids just watch Cocomelon on repeat like all day long. So I don't know. I don't know. What's your favorite?
What I have written down is Cars, the first one, and then Tangled. Those are both. I love both of those so much.
So, I don't know who made it, but I think Coco was incredible.
Ooh.
So I don't know if that is in that lane or not, but it was so good.
I mean, I can't blame you. There are a big selection now, and it's hard to choose one. So
Yeah.
I won't give you.
I know it's like we have like Disney Plus or whatever, and I was just like, I opened it and like I started like bleeding from my ears. Like I didn't even know like how do you choose? Like I don't know. Like
it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
Next, I was wondering your favorite Christian artist.
So what lane?
I guess overall, because I know a lot of them are Christians, but they don't necessarily like give Christian messages. I guess for an example, for me, I have Toby Mac. Of all time.
Yeah. So I love Andy Mineo. I love Lecrae. I love Elevation Worship. But I mean, I just love who Lecrae is. And Chance the Rapper is fire too. Like that Holy song by Justin Bieber. If you haven't watched, so whatever, like however you feel about Justin Bieber, just sit it aside, and there's a documentary on YouTube that is, I think it's like 26 minutes. And man, if it doesn't encapsulate who this man is, and what he and I don't know, it just gives you a great picture of who he is today, and it's really beautiful. It's a really beautiful story. But check it out. I highly recommend it.
Because even with his song "Lonely," like just hearing it, like seeing the overall stuff about
that hit me hard, dude.
Yeah,
because that was like that hit me hard because like that was like I wasn't as young as he was, and I wasn't making the paper he was making. But for me, like going from like living in government housing and food stamps to like, you know, jumping on a plane and going to Paris whenever I want, and like, you know, making $250,000 a year, like I thought I was balling, you know. So like, but I was like, the more successful I was, the more I felt alone, and like ultimately, like that's what caused me to quit.
Yeah, I think that really attests to the saying that you never really know what someone's going through. And for the last question, I know you're in Central Time. You said Iowa. That's where you live at now, right?
Yeah.
What's it like there? Yeah.
It's like it's a big college football town. So if college football is going on, that's what it's all about. So we're relatively close to Iowa City. So like my focus is young adults. So a lot of students there, a lot of, there's a community college that I live almost walking distance to. So that's why I'm in this place logistically. It's like a college town, lots of corn, lots of corn. But the thing that I wasn't ready for was the first time I ever visited here during the winter. My wife said, "Do you have a winter coat?" I was like, "Yeah." Yeah. I had like a Nike pullover, bro.
Oh no.
Because I'd only lived in South and North Carolina, and like for like modeling and stuff, like I traveled to New York, but I was there for like a few days, and then like Florida, I spent a lot of time there, and I lived in California for a long time, and that's where I've spent most of my life. So when she said, "Do you have a winter coat?" I was like, "Yeah, dude." And like her family, religiously, they'll go for a walk after dinner, and like I found out very quickly what I thought was cold and what actually was cold. It was a rude awakening, and I'll never forget. I was pumping gas one day. I got out of the car and I put my card in, and it was like, "Do you want a car wash?" I was like, "No." They're like, "Do you have like a fuel saver number?" I'm like, no, just give me the gas. They're like, "Do you want a 2-liter Pepsi?" I was like, "Come on." It was like, "Do you want a receipt?" I was like, "Oh my goodness, please." Because I kept in the middle of this, I kept trying to like pump the gas, get back in the car, pump the gas, get back in the car, and like it wouldn't work. And I almost died that day. So not really, but it seemed that way.
Yeah, I mean,
But it's cold. It's cold during the winter.
yeah, cold weather is definitely no joke. I've having to be out at some football games here. I've experienced that firsthand, and I thought I knew cold, and it hasn't been like record cold, but I'm sort of just I've taken it for granted. Like even with hoodies, big coat,
Oh yeah.
it's been bad. But
Oh yeah. And I was always that guy where like I'm surprised my legs didn't rot off, because like I wore my practice my basketball shorts. I wore my practice shorts every day, everywhere I went. And I was always that guy that wore shorts like all the time, and it's not happening. It's not happening.
I think that is a fantastic note to end
Yeah.
this off of. Once again, thank you, Mr. Broome, for spending, both of these sessions here.
Yeah,
I
man.
think we have a great conversation both times.
Absolutely. I appreciate you, Christian.
Thank you. I appreciate you too. And ladies and gentlemen, that will do it for this episode of Munch with Honeybunch. Have a day, everyone.
All right, dude.